Hello and welcome all. This is absolutely no one. I am by no means an expert or anyone whose word should hold distinct power over your own judgment. I'm just a no one on this platform who wants to express themselves. This is my disclaimer. So, a couple months ago, around 7 months ago, Fireborn, aka the God Gamer of the Hollow Knight community, released a video on another upcoming, at the time, small upcoming YouTuber named Hori Horihestio. Hori Horihesto. I'm just gonna call him Hori because my pronunciation is garbage. I can't I can't keep doing that. So Fireborn, a prevalent figure in the Hollow Knight community, released a video talking about who certain things about Hori's character and who he is, and about his branding and stuff like that. Um, I'll also add another disclaimer. I did not watch the video on Fireborn that Hori did on Fireborn, and I didn't watch the video that Fireborn did on Hori. I don't know much about either YouTubers. I don't know much about them personally. I don't know much about what the videos are talking about per se because I will admit I did not watch them. I didn't cover them at all because I want to make sure that I stay unbiased in every way possible, right? So this video is just going to be talking about the drama between Hori and Fireborn from Hori's perspective. I tried to get in contact with Fireborn so that I could discuss it with him, but unfortunately I was not able to reach him, and I don't expect that I would, right? So since Hori actually uploaded a community post basically inviting the community to DM him on Discord to talk to him and ask questions about the situation, or if they just wanted to talk to him. I took that as opportunity, and I basically wanted to discuss with him about the situation, right? So I asked him a series of questions, which I'll go over. So the first question that I asked him was, how did you start YouTube, and when did you encounter Fireborn? Did you ever have an interest in Hollow Knight and slash or its community? Since Hollow Knight and its community are not synonymous of each other, the game is not equal to the community and vice versa. And the reason why I asked this question first is because once again, I don't know much about Hori. I wanted to see what he is. I wanted to know who he is and get an idea of what he does, and how determined he is, and how ambitious he is and things like that. So his answer was that he started YouTube around 2014. He says it wasn't serious about 2 or 3 years ago when he got monetized out of the blue and started uploading more frequently and got more focused around specific showcases to strengthen his brand. And since he does like on his channel, you can see that he does gameplays and things like that, mostly gameplays. And now it seems like he's starting to get into ranting a little bit, which I'll cover a little bit later. So he continues and says, I encountered Fireborn the day he posted that video. Never knew him before other than knowing he's a known speedrunner in the Hollow Knight community. So this goes to show um, he probably wasn't someone who interacts with the Hollow Knight community all too much, right? He just knows the basics, that he's a speedrunner, just like I do. He just knows that, he's a speedrunner, he has a YouTube channel, and he does videos talking about Hollow Knight. That's pretty much it, right? So this goes to show, well, it doesn't show anything, but I guess he's trying to say that he had no personal vendetta, right? He wasn't being vindictive when he was releasing the newest video that he released. So he's basically, in this instance, when I asked this question and how he responds, is basically to say that he doesn't know him from Adam, right? He doesn't have any personal grudge against him, which is interesting. Um, and we'll see how that compares with some of his later answers. So the second question I asked was, who is Fireborn to him? Who is Fireborn to you? I asked, how would you describe him? How has your relationship being Fireborn and Hori's changed over the months or years? And I asked this because I initially asked him this because I thought that I expected if there was gonna be this drama where Fireborn is saying that in the video title it says that um, Hori the most narcissistic gamer or something like that, right? If he's gonna post a video like that, I think that he'd interact with um, Hori in some type of way, right? You can't just make a baseless accusation at calling somebody a narcissist without having interacted with them really, right? It doesn't really make much sense. So Hori says, as I said in the video, and once again I did not watch the video, from my perspective being Hori, he's obsessed with me. And now I want to pause on that because just because somebody makes a video on you, he made one video, that does not mean that somebody's obsessed with you. Like, take for example, Leafy is here, and when he had made his barrage of videos on Pokimane, somebody would say that he's obsessed just looking at the channel with no other context. They'd say that he's obsessed with this character with Pokimane because he wants to generate views or whatever, and other people with more context would see that he was just pushing his limits and seeing how far he would go and whatever it might be, right? Whatever thing that you can concoct to why he did that. But Hori continues to say, because I cannot explain otherwise why anyone would take weeks to gather so much material and lay it out in such a manner against a person he never interacted with. Now, another pause on that, because isn't that strange? I mean, I thought that I would think that somebody who takes pride in what they do, who's determined and ambitious with their craft, being YouTube, right? Fireborn, he's a speedrunner, he's a gamer, but he's also a YouTuber. So if he's taking this seriously, he takes his YouTube career seriously, wouldn't it make sense that he'd spend time to if he wants to make a video on somebody, he'd take time to make sure that he's not accusing somebody and he's just bringing out like basic facts and knowledge and stuff like that, right? It makes sense that somebody would take weeks to make sure that they're not releasing false information that could later bite them in the butt, right? So I wouldn't say that so much as to being obsessive. I don't understand where he was coming from with that. It completely lost me why he said that he feels that Fireborn would be obsessive with him when A, Fireborn only made one video on him, and B, his reasoning is that it seems like he took weeks to gather information. Well, yeah, I generally want to take weeks or a long amount of time so that I could gain good accurate information on somebody if I want to make a video on them. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're obsessed with them. So he continues with his response, saying that, as a person, I genuinely believe that anyone that calls himself unironically God Gamer on every opportunity and refers to himself in third person is either a bit unhinged or very much in love with himself. Either way, I'd stay away from anyone like that. Now, I personally, I don't know much about Fireborn. I haven't watched too many of his videos on his YouTube channel, but when you see him being called the God Gamer, I thought it was just something as a joke, right? A joke within the community. And if you don't watch Fireborn, if you don't watch his videos all too often, you just see him on one occasion, you see God Gamer, you think that that's pretty pretentious, right? You're like, wow, that's what a narcissist, right? Some people might say that, but if you're watching the videos and you're just thinking, well, what context is he putting that in, right? What context is he putting the title of God Gamer in? Is he saying that he's the God Gamer of everything? Yeah, that's a bit pretentious, that's a bit over the top, egotistical. But if he's doing that for just the Hollow Knight community and everybody agrees with that, I don't know. But according to Hori, he unironically calls himself the God Gamer, which I don't know too much. I don't know. There's a little bit of discrepancy. There's a little bit more room to analyze and to understand where that's coming from. So my third question was, do you think that there's any gaming community that isn't toxic? And what do you think turns these communities into garbage piles? Now, this one was a little bit of a fun question for me, since I wanted to see where he, got his idea of Hori being, or excuse me, of Fireborn being unhinged and all this stuff. I wanted to understand where that was coming from. Was it because of things that he saw within the community of Hollow Knight and how they may have influenced Fireborn, or maybe the other way around, how Fireborn may have influenced the community of Hollow Knight, and maybe he sees something that we don't. So his response says that I had experiences with Celeste, Hollow Knight, and Friday Night Funkin'. I do not like how the word toxic is being thrown around like a buzzword. Now, that's completely true. I 100% agree with this. I mean, if you want to say something, or not when other people see something that's even in the slightest bit, I don't know, bad, they say that, oh, this is toxic. When they see a couple in the slightest altercation, oh, they're so toxic. Oh, he's so toxic to her. It's just the word lost a lot of its meaning. I mean, toxic, when you think of something that's toxic, you probably think of something like radiation, how it destroys everything in its environment or anything around it. And when you see what people call toxic these days, it's not the same. It's nowhere near the same. But continuing on, he says, but I will tell you that there is common ground to all fandoms, that when they mark you as an outsider that acts different than their general expected consensus, they won't hesitate to target you in masses and cancel you in every way possible, with disregard to your own livelihood. Now, I will say that there is some truth to this, because when I saw the Hollow Knight community go after Crowsworn, I was in shock. I thought that they were a relatively peaceful community, but then I saw when Crowsworn came out, and it looks like an amazing game. I played Hollow Knight, I loved it, and Crowsworn just looks like it was inspired by Hollow Knight among other games, and the developers also agreed to that. They also attest to the fact that they were inspired by Hollow Knight, and they also said Devil May Cry, if I'm not mistaken, and another game, if I just don't remember it right now. But in any case, just because a game is inspired by something doesn't mean that it was traced, it was copied 100%. And that's what the Hollow Knight, well, it probably wasn't a lot, but that's the loudest voice in the Hollow Knight community, and you heard that voice way too much. And all they were saying giving them so much hate to the developers, and all they were saying was that, oh, you copied Hollow Knight, you're trying to copy the Hollow Knight formula, you're trying to become Silksong, or you're trying to compete with Silksong. And they were enraged. I couldn't believe it. But after looking, it seemed like they were in the minority, although they were the loudest. And that's what you have to be careful of. The people who are usually in the minority are usually the ones who are the loudest, the biggest talkers, which is interesting to say the least. So he continues to say that, mind you, it's all video games at the end of the day, and that's true. I mean, why would you put so much effort into hating on something when it's just a video game? When at the end of the day, you're just gonna have to wake up in the morning, head over to your 9 to 5, or head over to your internship, or head over to school, whatever it might be. At the end of the day, you play this game for a couple hours, but then you still have your real life that you have to go back to attend to. You have your bills to pay, you have your homework to do, whatever it might be. Why are you gonna put all this hate and all this energy into hating when you have to put energy into the other things? You have to put energy into your work, your school, your homework, yada yada. The list goes on. It's confusing to me. But he also continues to say, this also leads me to believe that these fandoms are made up of young teens who cannot control their impulses, also given by a lot of their immature arguments. Not uncommon at all to find God, you're pathetic, end of argument, or mad because bad, end of argument. That's true. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're children or they're young teens. I mean, they might say that because at a certain point they just don't care to continue the conversation, they don't care to continue the argument, so they just release like one off, oh, you're mad because you're bad, and then that's it, just 3 words, because they honestly don't care about the conversation anymore, which seems to be the case. But honestly, there might be some people who say that because they actually generally believe that you're mad because you're bad at the game, and then they actually think that that's a reasonable statement to make, or they actually believe that that's a legitimate response, or that's a legitimate rebuttal, which it isn't. It's sometimes pretty hilarious when you look at it as a third person. He continues to say, there's hardly ever an attempt to rationalize with the other side. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't let my kids take part in fandoms in the future based on my own experience. And I was kind of shocked that I didn't think this Hori guy would have had kids, but all that being here nor there, I had one last question, because I said in the beginning of the video that Fireborn released this video around 7 months ago at the time of this recording. So what was Hori doing in those 7 months? That was a big question for me. So I asked him, what were you doing in the past 7 months when Fireborn initially posted a video? Do you feel that it was an intentional personal attack to you or your brand? Why didn't he not make a response video almost immediately to immediately refute the claims? Why did he wait so long? So he says that he was creating content. Or he says that he was creating content, so what else could he have done? He dismissed the whole thing and answered in the video, once again I didn't watch the video, as well, that I finally replied because I was getting more and more harassment. He doesn't go into say explicitly what type of harassment, like death threats or anything like that, but he just listed it as harassment. I actually started making rant videos very recently, starting with the whole Friday Night Funkin' thing, and thought it would be a good opportunity to just cover everything that I had to say on stuff that is relevant to the channel. So it seems like we'll see more videos like that from Hori. It seems like maybe every now and then he'll start doing rant videos because of some issue that he might have with the community, or some issue that's some contrast, some clash between communities and things like that. So we might expect something else from Hori, similar to the video that he posted just yesterday at the time of this recording. So this is the end of the video. This was just to get an idea into the mind of Hori. Maybe not so much that deep, but it was definitely just a way to see the perspective of Hori's opinion, to see his perspective on the whole debacle between Fireborn and Hori. It's just to get his perspective on things. No, it's not a real in-depth analysis, I'd say, of the the debate of the drama per se. It's just, like I said, it's just to get a perspective shift on for Hori, right? So this is Absolutely No One. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, consider subscribing, liking the video, commenting, and I'll see you in the next one.